Warlords Ruin is the dungeon added in the Season of the Wish, and it is a great dungeon. It gives off real Dark Souls vibes. You're storming a castle, there's secrets, there's traps. We got some decent mechanics as well, but overall it's not too difficult, meaning it should be pretty good for beginners and veterans alike. Today I'm going to go through all the encounters, the puzzles, the boss mechanics, plus we're going to check out the loot table, and I'll give you an overview of all the weapons from Warlords Ruin in Destiny 2. Well, you can find the dungeon on the EDZ, and you will need the dungeon key to access the dungeon. You can get this as part of the Lightfall Deluxe Edition, or you can pick up the dungeon key separately. It is possible to solo the dungeon, although you probably want to go in with a fire team for the first few times just to learn the mechanics, but once you've got it down and you understand how everything works, then it is a really good challenge to go back and go in solo. Okay, so when you enter the dungeon, you want to climb the mountain and make your way around the ledges to the entrance. So you've got flags indicating the way you should go, and you want to follow them up and round to get to the castle entrance. But be careful of the chest. You know, you've got a glowing chest there. It's a trap, and if you open it, you will die. So this one is a warning, and it's also a repeating mechanic throughout the dungeon. Keep going up and around, and eventually you're going to find a bridge that connects the mountain to the castle. Cross the bridge, kill the Scorn, enter the castle, work your way through the halls, then it is time for the first encounter. Okay, this one is called Rathil, First Broken Knight of Fickrel. So this is a good opening encounter. It teaches you some of the dungeon mechanics. So you need to cleanse some taken totems to remove the boss's shield. So adds spawn in when you start the encounter. You're going to clear out as many of the adds as possible. Rathil then raises his arms and your team gets teleported into raised cells, one in each cell. You're then going to want to shoot 3 taken blighted eyes near your cell to open up the door. And if you don't do this in time, well, you will die. So that opens up the door. You can jump out and make your way back to the taken totems. So the imminent wish timer counts down. This will give you the amount of time to cleanse. So to cleanse, stand near the totems for a few seconds and try and cleanse as many as possible. When the imminent wish counter is finished, you're going to then see Naeem's wish, and that is an empowerment buff, and that means it's the DPS phase. So at this point, you want to unload as much ammo into the boss as possible, then repeat this process until you've removed the boss's health, and that is the first encounter complete. Well, next up, we got the imprisoned puzzle. So you're going to immediately get teleported into jail, and this is where many teams got stuck on the first run. So to get out of jail, you have to turn 6 cogs clockwise and counterclockwise. You have to turn some clockwise and some counterclockwise. So you can turn them by shooting them. So you want to shoot them once to start them turning clockwise, shoot them again to stop them, and then shoot them again to turn them counterclockwise. So you have to communicate with your team to locate all 6 cogs. So all of you should be able to see at least a couple out of the cells. So have a look around inside your cell and you're going to find a tally. These tally marks indicate how many cogs must rotate clockwise, with the remaining cogs rotating counterclockwise. So once you've got the cogs turning in the right direction according to the tally, then shoot the lock outside the door. All the doors are going to open and it'll allow you to grab the loot from the first encounter. Well, next up we have the maze. Now you've made it out of jail, you want to make your way through a maze. So defeat the Scorn and the Taken and drop through a hole. Watch out for the exploding chests once again, as they're going to bait you into opening them, but beware, they are traps. So be careful for the spikes as well, in the walls, in the floors. So it's a bit of a maze, this area. You want to find your way through, then you want to jump up and jump out, and you're going to find a snowy area. That means you've made it through to the end of the maze section. So make your way up and out, and then start climbing up to the main castle. You're going to find yourself on a bridge, and you want to kill the Scorn that appear, plus also Hes Vengeance, and that is eventually going to be the final boss. You can't damage Hes Vengeance at the moment, so just avoid their attacks and make your way across the bridge towards the keep. You can't go in the front door though, so when you go up around the left-hand side and in through a hole in the wall. Well, next up we got the second encounter, and this one is called Locust of Wailing Grief. So the idea here is to ignite the 4 pillars in the middle to start the damage phase, then rotate your team through the pillars, damaging the ogre as you go. So when you first start the encounter, you want to destroy the blighted eyes. They're hovering above the boss. Try and stay near the left or the right side when you defeat them, as the torches are going to help save you from the cold. So 2 broken knights are going to spawn, one on the left and one on the right hand side. Totems will spawn and the blizzards are going to start, so kill the broken knights and stand near the totems to cleanse. And to stop freezing, you want to run and get near a torch. So be careful though, as this freezing weather will kill you. Each totem you cleanse will spawn a solar orb near where we started the encounter. And ideally, you want to spawn 4 solar orbs at the same time, and then take the orbs to the 4 pillars in the middle, being careful to avoid the Taken, and also avoiding the Ogre as well. You know, it may not be possible to get all 4 orbs to spawn at the same time, so repeat the process of killing Scorn and grabbing the solar orbs if necessary. Once all the pillars have been ignited, then it's time for the boss damage phase. The Ogre is going to be walking towards the pillars. He's going to slam down on them to extinguish the flames, meaning you have to rotate to the next one. While the Ogre is walking towards the pillar, you want to be unloading as much ammo into the Ogre as possible to take down his health, and then repeat this process as many times as you need to defeat the boss. Well, next up you want to scale the castle, so now you've defeated Locust of Wailing Grief, you want to make your way up. So follow the halls, make your way through the caves, killing the Scorn and Taken as you go. You're going to find the core of the mountain with a huge blight in there, so jump up and around. You want to keep to the right, hug the right wall there, and keep your eyes on the snipers as they can be a little bit tricky. So keep going up through a series of jumping puzzles and you can make your way to the final boss. Well, the final boss is called Hes Vengeance, Blighted Chimera. So to start this encounter, you want to shoot the blight near the Amkara bones. Hes Vengeance, they're going to spawn and unleash a whole load of Taken at you. So shoot the eyes next to the boss and make sure you've taken out as many of the ads as possible. The Broken Knights, they are back and they spawn on either side of the encounter. After they spawn, you're going to get hit with the Hex of Vengeful Corruption. And to get rid of this, you want to melee the Corrupted Hex Drinker who spawns in. But be careful as they're going to try and hit you back. So once you melee them, you want to get rid of that Hex, then get out of their way, as these guys, they're going to transfer that Hex back to you. And if they transfer it back to you with no time left, well, then you are going to die. The rest of the encounter is pretty similar to the last one, to be honest, so kill the Broken Knights, cleanse the Taken totems that spawn, and once that Imminent Wish counts down to 0, you're going to get a short window of damage on the boss, plus a nice audio cue that sounds a bit like a sword. So the damage phase is broken up into segments where you have to ascend the mountain, and the boss is at its most vulnerable when you get to the platforms at the top. Well, the first 3 sections of the boss encounter, they are fairly lengthy. You're going to be killing Taken, avoiding Hex of Vengeful Corruption, and taking down the Broken Knights. Once you get past the 3rd phase, you jump onto the platforms where you can deal the most damage to Hes Vengeance. The boss is going to grow a bunch of eyes. You're going to want to focus as much damage onto the boss as possible. You know, watch out for the platforms as they become corrupted, then simply jump onto the next platform, repeat the process a few times, and then you'll get to the final stand. So when the boss has got about 10% health left, you know, you're going to get teleported to the top of the ruins, and you and your team are going to have to pump as much damage into the boss as possible and take them out. So linear fusion rifles, rockets, machine guns, all good for this section. You defeat the boss, and that is it. Warlords Ruin Dungeon is complete. Well, next up, let's have a look at the Warlords Ruin loot table. So for that first encounter, that's Rathil. You can get the Strand Sword, that is the Dragon Cult Sickle. You can get the Strand Bow, that is Vengeful Whisper. And you can also get the Special Rocket Sidearm, that is the In-Depth Kindness. So in terms of the armor, you can get the helmet, the arms, and the legs. For the second encounter, that's the Locust of Wailing Grief. You can get Neem's Lance, that is the Strand Sniper. You can get the Vengeful Whisper, that is the Strand Bow. Once again, you can get the Indebted Kindness, and that one, of course, is the Special Rocket Sidearm. And for the armor, you can get the arms, the chest, and also the class item as well. For the third encounter, or the final boss, that is Hes Vengeance, you can get the Buried Bloodline, that is the exotic Void Sidearm, that is the exotic for the dungeon. You can get the Dragon Cult Sickle, that is the Strand Sword. You can get the Indebted Kindness, the Special Rocket Sidearm. And you may have noted, you can get the Special Rocket Sidearm from all the encounters in the dungeon, so that is good news. That means it is quite easy to farm. You can also get the Neem's Lance, that is the Strand Sniper, and also all of the armor pieces are available as well. Well, next up, let's have a look at all the weapons in a little bit of detail. So we've got the Indebted Kindness, that is the sidearm. This one is a new archetype of weapon. It's a sidearm that fires rockets. It's pretty unique and probably has more of a place in PvE than PvP. So for PvE, quick launch, high velocity rounds, impulse amplifier, and volt shot would be good. And a velocity masterwork, that would also be good too. It's all about velocity with rockets. So impulse amplifier and that velocity masterwork, that is going to work really, really well for you. For PvP, quick launch, high velocity rounds, impulse amplifier, and adagio would be good. Once again, that velocity masterwork is going to help you get those rockets on opponents in PvP. Next up, we got the Dragon Cult Sickle. This one is the sword. It is a strand caster frame sword. It's going to work really, really well for strand builds. So for PvE, honed edge, swordmaster's guard, tireless blade, and surrounded would be good. Have a PvP, honed edge, burst guard, tireless blade, and on guard. That would be a decent role for the Crucible. Next up, we got Neem's Lance. That one is a sniper. It's a strand sniper. It's also a rapid fire frame type as well. So for PvE, fluted barrel, appended mag, reconstruction, and precision instrument would be good. Whereas PvP, fluted barrel, ricochet rounds, keep away, and demolitionist, that would be pretty decent. But let me know in the comments what you think about this sniper. I've heard it doesn't really hold up too well against other snipers, but we'd love to hear what you think. Then we've got Vengeful Whisper. This one is a strand bow. Slightly surprising, given later in the season we're going to get an exotic strand bow. But this one could be a good substitute if you want to take in a legendary bow into activities with your strand build. So for PvE, elastic string, fiberglass arrow shaft, explosive head, and precision instrument would be good. And for PvP, flexible string, fiberglass arrow shaft, archer's tempo, and successful warm-up. That is the one you want to go for. Well, finally then, we've got Buried Bloodline. This one is the exotic sidearm. So I haven't got this one yet, but it appears to behave like a crossbow. But let's have a look at the exotic perks. So we've got Hungering Quarrel, fires 2 tracking bolts that leech health from the target, and Violent Reanimation. I really like the name of that perk. So final blows of the weapon grant Devour to the wielder. So that is very, very useful for those void builds. So this weapon is a random drop from the final boss, plus you can complete triumphs related to the dungeon to increase your chances. Just find the ones with a little exotic engram next to the triumph, complete that, then you're going to increase your drop rate chances. Well, let me know in the comments what you think about the Warlords Ruin Dungeon, and also let me know what you think about that loot. I would love to hear what you think. Well, that is it for this guide for the Warlords Ruin Dungeon, and also the God Roll loot that you can get from that dungeon. And as always, thank you so much for watching or for listening. Well, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below, and that like button would really, really help me out. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.